Welcome. On behalf of the Freedom Plains United Presbyterian Church and the Dutchess Interfaith Council, I want to welcome you here this afternoon to this live stream service. We are blessed that even in these days we can get together as a larger community and communities of faith to celebrate Thanksgiving and to be together. I want to welcome you here also on behalf of Shir Hadash Synagogue. On a Sunday morning, you'd see the cross on the pulpit behind us. On a Friday night, you would see the Star of David. This is an ecumenical space, and we are delighted to make it more so here this afternoon. The other privilege I have this afternoon, is to introduce you to Dutchess County Interfaith Council's new Executive Director, John McKenna. And John, welcome.
Thank you, Reverend Paul. Appreciate that. Happy season of thanks, everyone. We began the program today with Jonathan Horowitz of Temple Bethel sounding the shofar. May the sound of the shofar awaken each of us to the power that comes by acting together in goodness toward one another and for the world. This event today will feature the teachings and music of many faith traditions represented in our Hudson Valley. We are grateful to our hosts here at Freedom Plains, United Presbyterian Church, and especially to our technical experts, Godfrey Nelson and his wife, Lorraine Nelson Wolf. Our first musical selection, appropriately, is the choir of Freedom Plains Church, singing by the magic of virtual assembly. Ladies and gentlemen, the Freedom Singers.
Good afternoon, Dutchess County. My name is Jen Brown. I'm here as a representative of the Baha'i faith. Baha'is do not have clergy, and so I am not a clergy member. I want to, and still we give thanks. We are in the midst of a pandemic, on the brink of an environmental crisis, plunging headlong into a political abyss, facing a global financial crisis, and yet, still, we give thanks. We are a remarkably resilient people. This time of year, I and my husband and I are cultivating the tradition of commemorating the first peoples of the North American continent, our brothers and sisters who peopled and stewarded this land that we all now call home. And I'd like to do that through the prism of the Baha'i faith and one of our foundational principles, and that is that all religions are one. Baha'u'llah has said, and Baha'u'llah is the prophet founder of the Baha'i faith. He began his ministry and disclosed his revelation in the middle 1800s, 1863. Religious truth is not absolute. It is relative. Divine revelation is a continuous and progressive process. All the great religions of the world are divine in origin. Their basic principles are in complete harmony with one another, and their aims and purposes are one and the same. Their teachings are but facets of one truth. Their functions are complementary. They differ only in the non-essential aspects of their doctrines, and their missions represent successive stages in the spiritual evolution of human society. We can liken humanity to the phases that a human being goes through from childhood to adulthood. Baha'is believe that humanity is on the brink of maturity. We are leaving those chaotic teenage years and moving to a place of maturity. Baha'u'llah's revelation provides guidance from God for this time. So, going back for a moment to the faith-based practices of Native Americans, Baha'is call the person who reveals the faith a manifestation of God. Some manifestations that you may be familiar with include, and I want to get them chronologically right, Abraham, Krishna, Moses, Zoroaster, Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, the Bab, and Baha'u'llah. These are the manifestations of God that I am familiar with. But the Baha'i writings suggest that throughout eternity, God has sent manifestations to guide and to educate humanity. He never leaves us alone. This is his covenant with us. He never leaves us alone to our own devices. There is always guidance. So it begs the question, if manifestations of God have appeared to humankind throughout history, each bringing guidance specific to the needs of the time and place in which they appear, who were the manifestations of God that appeared to the first peoples of the North American continent? Well, since another foundational principle of the Baha'i faith is the independent investigation of truth, I set out to investigate. The Baha'i writings do not contain a list of manifestations, approved manifestations. However, one can find a series of characteristics that apply to all manifestations. First, the nature of the claim that the manifestation is making. Ye shall know them by their fruits. And I believe that's from Matthew 7:16. The claimant's perseverance in the face of opposition willingness to face death and persecution, his demonstration of godlike attributes, and his submission to the divine will. His revelation, the creation of a new civilization. Is it transformational? So, reflecting on some of these characteristics and upon the true meaning of the manifestation of God, I have chosen to honor this Thanksgiving. I have chosen to honor, commemorate, and give thanks for the rich, authentic, faith-based traditions of the Iroquois Confederacy and their leader, the great peacemaker, Deganawida. I call to mind the ways in which native spirituality and principles of justice and fairness have infused our systems, elevating us and giving us footing from which to fight for justice. I call to mind the political systems and democratic principles developed under Deganawida's leadership over the Iroquois Confederacy, and how those principles were studied and adopted into the Articles of Confederation that united the original 13 colonies that formed the foundation of the United States. And those principles were eventually incorporated into the Constitution. So, while there is no definitive listing of official divine manifestations in the Baha'i writings, I acknowledge here and now the evidence of a divine revelation that transformed not only the lives of the Iroquois people, but through historic inheritance has transformed our lives as well. This holiday season, I invite you to learn the story of Deganawida and the Great Peace. And I also invite you to learn the story of Baha'u'llah and the Most Great Peace. These two stories are one. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen, for those beautiful, timely, and extremely auspicious words and a heartfelt reflection. Now we enjoy a timeless recorded production by Sudesh Sarup from a recent Interfaith Music Festival featuring young musicians of the Hindu Samaj in Wappingers Falls. Ladies and gentlemen, the Hindu Trio.
शरणं जगजननी सत्यधर्मपालिनी शरणं जगजननी सत्यधर्मपालिनी वरदाभयकारिणी वरमन्त्रस्वरूपिणी वरदाभयकारिणी वरमन्त्रस्वरूपिणी
Our next musical selection by the well-known ensemble Capella Festiva was part of a tribute to Randall Fleischer. At the conclusion, you will see a link to this program, and it is encouraged you check it out. It is a gift to be making such an offering available to all. A brief tip on the Latin, dona nobis pacem means give us peace. Ladies and gentlemen, Capella Festiva. Capella Festiva and the Bardovan will be hosting a Messiah virtual sing-in next month. Now, we extend our deep and heartfelt gratitude to the festival's music builders, who have contributed generously in support, talent, and time. Thank you, Lorraine Harton-Gillard, Cora Mallory Davis, Muriel Horowitz, Reverend Gail Berger, Kevin and Carol Becker, Godfrey Nelson and Lorraine Nelson-Wolf, Elaine Lipschultz, the Zimmett family, and the William and Sadie Efron Fund. The interfaith community throughout Dutchess County thanks you all for your help and your heart. Now, enjoy the video. It's a production of Anideepa, a contemplation on gratitude.
Good afternoon. Greetings from Palpum Thupten Choling Monastery in Wappingers Falls. My name is Anideepa, and I've been asked to share with you a contemplation on gratitude from the Buddhist tradition. I'd like to do so from the tradition, particularly of the understanding and contemplation on interdependence or interconnectedness. In our teachings, we have vast teachings on interdependence, interconnectedness, which then give rise to a sense of innate and spontaneous gratitude. So this idea of interdependence is the understanding that everything that we are, everything that we use, everything that sustains us in any way comes from the help and the work, the efforts of many, many beings, so that we are literally connected to the all of life. And I'd like to share with you some writings by His Holiness Karmapa, the head of our lineage, who has brought this to a very beautiful point, a very personal point, using the breath. And the reason I chose to share this tonight is that this particular contemplation has been very helpful for me at this time when we are surrounded by so much suffering and confusion. It has been very helpful to return to the breath as a centering place or agent, a way to bring my mind back. As Thich Nhat Hanh says, bringing the mind back home to the breath. So I'll read a bit from the book by His Holiness Karmapa, and then we'll spend a few moments just meditating on his words. He says, we can also extend these feelings of intimate connectedness to our natural environment, turning our attention to the most basic condition for life on this planet, the air we breathe. We see that we cannot be separated from our physical environment. Even if we could manage for some time without food or clothing, we cannot survive more than a few moments without oxygen. A vast number of conditions need to come together to yield the uninterrupted supply of oxygen that is indispensable to keep us alive. Yet we ourselves make no conscious efforts to bring these conditions about. Contemplating this basic fact can spark a sense of wonder and gratitude towards the planet itself. What's more, we ourselves form part of this vast system of symbiotic exchanges. As the trees and plants take in sunlight and carbon dioxide to produce the oxygen that we so vitally require, we are continually reciprocating with carbon dioxide, which plants use as they produce more oxygen. Once we inhale, that oxygen is carried by our blood cells throughout our body. Thus we can say that trees and plants and the sun itself are present in our every cell, just as our breath may be present in the plant cells. So I thought it'd be very good to take just a moment, we don't have much time, but just a couple of moments to let your mind rest and be aware of the breath going out, pervading everywhere, the breath coming in, bringing in the oxygen that we need to sustain ourselves, and again breathing out, sending out the carbon dioxide that is needed by the plants, breathing in the oxygen, letting that flow of the breath be a centering moment for us. The breathing out, the breathing in. Maintaining this awareness as we live our lives can help us move beyond a mere intellectual understanding of interdependence. As we increasingly apply this lens to our experiences, the awareness moves from our head to our heart, and we can begin to actually experience ourselves as interconnected. So we from the monastery send all of you our heartfelt and sincere wishes for happiness and peace and a joyous holiday season. And we can end our contemplation by sending those wishes to all beings with our gratitude for all that they do to sustain us. Thank you very much.
You know the maxim, talk the talk and walk the walk. Well, Taylor Holbrook can walk the walk with the best of them. Taylor is the Interfaith Council's chairperson for Crop Walk, for World Hunger, and an impressive hiker in his own right. He continues to make strides, assisting countless of our brothers and sisters throughout the county. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Taylor Holbrook.
Well, thank you so much this year, because for 45 years, the Dutchess Interfaith Council has been walking the crop walk. In fact, I think the council is 45 years old, so I think every year the council's existed, it's sponsored a crop walk. This year, the crop walk was different than it ever has been before, as you can imagine. But walk we did in amazing ways. And I want to thank everybody from every congregation, organization, group that walked, because people walked the Mid-Hudson Bridge, people walked the Roosevelt Mansion, people walked the Appalachian Trail, people ran 10Ks, people did all kinds of things to raise funds, and it's so exciting for me to share with you tonight that we are at around $56,000 in our crop walk for this year. There are not many people here, but let's have a...
Yes.
Yeah! That's great. That's great, because when we started planning this,
Beautiful.
We thought we were in big trouble. And I also thought I was in big trouble, because this year we are walking with a great cloud of witnesses. Because many of you in Dutchess Interfaith community know Ken and Mary Moody. Ken died this past year. Mary died the year before that. Ken was the organizer, and I felt a little bit like trying to be Tom Brady's replacement for the New England Patriots, because Ken did an excellent job. But the spirit of Ken and Mary was very much present in this walk. In fact, as I walked in here today, Pastor Lent told me that 6,000 more was added to Team Moody. So that makes our total about $56,000 that we raised this year. That's great. That's great. I'd like to thank the top 5 teams. So Team Moody was number 1. So to the Freedom Plains Church and all who walked for Team Moody, we thank you so much for that work. And more money is coming in, and that's the invite. We're going to give Brian a check here in a couple of minutes, but we want more money to come in. So if you're watching out there, go to the website. You can click on CWS Crop, and you can still give money or send money to our treasurer there. Second, Poughkeepsie Reformed Church was next after that. Pleasant Plains, and this was another one of our great cloud of witnesses, because Emerson Berger passed away this year. So Gail raised money in Emerson's honor, and they brought in over $4,000 this year. Hyde Park Methodist and Temple Bethel. So we thank you to all the groups that walked. What we do is we give 25% of the total money to local community outreach programs that address hunger in our area. So tonight, I brought a check, and I have good news with this, because I think, Ryan, this check is going to get larger. And right now, this check says $9,693 that goes to Dutchess Outreach. But I think with the money that we've received tonight, that, Ryan, this is probably going to actually come to you at about $10,000. So, Ryan from Dutchess Outreach, please come up, Ryan, and receive this check.
Well done, Taylor.
Thank you so much. And I saw their work. Justin on the farm that's given fresh food to folks who need food. And you know that this year, the needs that have come with COVID have been magnified for everybody that's looking at food insecurity and just the money we need to raise to help that out. So we also have checks here that go to other local food pantries and food banks. The Fishkill Food Pantry will get a check. How about a cheer for that? Also to the Beulah Baptist Saturday Night Soup Kitchen, they get a check. And finally, to Dutchess County Community Action Partnership Agency, they get a check. So thank you all. Thank you all. And go to the website. The phone lines are still open to receive donations.
Thank you, Taylor. It's a tangible way that DCIC applies its faith. So we're happy to address food scarcity throughout the county. By all means, yes.
I just want to say thank you to everybody involved in the crop walk. It's just a spectacular effort by the faith community of Dutchess County to support Dutchess Outreach. But the faith community in Dutchess County does so much more. There's not a day that goes by when some member or some part of any of the many faith communities in Dutchess County play a part in what Dutchess Outreach does. And that's just an amazing statistic, an amazing fact, and everybody, I'm so grateful and so proud to be part of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the beautiful effort. Now we present the video, How Long Will I Yearn Out of My Love for You? Sahina Sabi.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you. My name is Hasina and I am from Stony Brook, New York. I was invited by the lovely Sabah to sing because she knows that I love to sing classical Islamic poetry as well as other types of music. I'm going to sing 2 songs today. The first one is a love poem for the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and it was written many years ago and it is in Arabic. The second one is a contemporary English poem that was written by Imam Mohammed Mendez, who is an imam in New Jersey. So here is the first poem. And while I sing, I will be playing the traditional drum. It's called the duff, D-A-F-F. It's also known as the frame drum in the West. All right. طالما أشكو غرامي يا نور الوجود طالما أشكو غرامي يا نور الوجود ما أنادي يا تهامي يا معدن الجود ما أنادي يا تهامي يا معدن الجود the next one, the English poem that I'm going to sing, has an Arabic chorus, but it's a very beautiful poem. So I'll sing the Arabic chorus first, and then I'll head into the English lines. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, Allah, Allah, Allah. He's the savior of your soul, through him your life becomes whole. He's our start and he's our goal, Allah, Allah, Allah. Through him faith is made concrete, through him you become complete. Mankind be sure to repeat, Allah, Allah, Allah. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, Allah, Allah, Allah. His name is light upon light, it opens your inner sight. Invoke him all day and night, Allah, Allah, Allah. He will bring you inner peace, he will cure you from disease, he will fill your life with ease, Allah, Allah, Allah. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, Allah, Allah, Allah. Beyond time, beyond space, beyond gender, beyond race, wherever you turn, there's his face, Allah, Allah, Allah. He saved Noah from the flood, he made Adam more than mud, more than flesh and more than blood, Allah, Allah, Allah. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, Allah, Allah, Allah. He saved Noah from the flood, he made Adam more than mud, more than flesh and more than blood, Allah, Allah, Allah. He will guide you to what's right, he will strengthen with true might. He helped David win the fight, Allah, Allah, Allah. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, Allah, Allah, Allah. Thank you for listening.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Rabbi Neil Levinger. I'm the head of spiritual care at Vassar Brothers Medical Center. I want to share with you a short reflection on a passage from the Torah, a passage that has played a part in my own work as a chaplain during the past 8 months of pandemic. About sometime maybe in April or late March, I was asked to give an inspirational message to the folks at Vassar Brothers. We were in the middle of trying to care for so many people with COVID. It was a new situation that none of us had ever dealt with before. And I turned to the book of Exodus, where a story is told about Moses fighting a battle, or rather Moses inspiring his people to fight a battle. The story is from Exodus 17 that Moses is told that, Amalek, the people who attack Israel, are coming out, and Moses says to Joshua, you take the men and go fight Amalek. So Joshua's down on the battlefield fighting the battle. Moses goes up to a hill with his brother Aaron and a fellow named Hur. We'll come back to him in a moment. And Moses lifts up his arms, and when Moses lifts up his arms, the people prevail. When he gets tired and falls asleep and falls down, the people don't prevail. So Aaron and Hur are very smart. They get a rock and they put it under Moses so he can kind of sit and be supported. And then Aaron and Hur hold up Moses' arms. And the point I drew with this was that when we were in the hospital fighting this terrible battle against COVID, we were all becoming exhausted like Moses. But we had to find ways to inspire each other. The great Torah commentator from medieval France called Rashi asks an interesting question. He says, were Moses' arms magic that when he lifts them up that gives the people military prowess? He says it has nothing to do with that. Rather, people would look up on the hill where Moses was stationed, and Moses would lift up his arms to say, look to your God in heaven, and remember that God will give you strength. So I said to the hospital staff, we have to find ways to be Moses to each other, to inspire each other, to give each other purpose, to help each other carry on. But the story doesn't end there. Sometime later, I was speaking with another chaplain down in New York City, another rabbi, a chaplain named Karatav, and she says, I was using that exact same text to speak to my people in my hospital. And Brooklyn had it even worse than Poughkeepsie did. And she said, but I did something very different with that text. I was more interested in the second part of the story where Aaron and Hur sit Moses down on the rock. And she said, when I spoke to my staff, I said, who are you helping to get the self-care they need? Who are you helping to get the rest they need? Who are you supporting like Aaron and Hur supported Moses? And she said, but there's one more interesting thing. Think about the rock. We see the various players in the story, Amalek, we see Moses, we see Joshua down on the front lines, we see Aaron and Hur as the ones who are supporting Moses, who's supporting the people. She said, but no one ever talks about the rock. She said, sometimes we are just like that rock, not really noticed, not really given a prominent place in the story, but we are the rock that other people can find rest on and be supported on. I thought that was a brilliant insight. And in the spirit of what our Baha'i speaker said earlier, I would turn this into a meditation not only on how we can offer support to each other, but how we can think more deeply about to whom we owe gratitude. There have been people on the front lines of the battle, and I would suggest that all of you owe them a debt of gratitude. They go by the name of nurses, doctors, respiratory therapists, the environmental services workers in the hospitals who disinfect the room after a COVID patient has been in it. There are patient care technicians. There are people who are scouring the planet for personal protective equipment so healthcare workers can take care of people. There have been people in the financial offices who are going frantic with worry that our healthcare system is in great financial peril because of the pandemic and doing everything they can to achieve financial sustainability. We all owe all of them a debt of gratitude for being on the front lines of this crisis. But out of the hospital, we also feel like we've been fighting a battle against cynicism and fatigue, fighting a battle where it feels like we have to be constantly vigilant to wear our masks and be socially distant and to wash our hands. And we need to support each other and be grateful for each other when we receive that support to keep doing what we have to do to flatten the curve and to keep each other safe. Sometimes we're going to be like Aaron, as close as a brother, and helping each other during those periods when we get tired of soldiering on. And sometimes we're going to be like Hur. We don't know a lot about him, but he kind of shows up at this moment and does exactly the right thing at exactly the right time, and how grateful we are that he was there for Moses. And I'm guessing that each of you could find in your memory someone who showed up at exactly the right time to turn your attitude around, to give you hope and inspiration and support, and to hold you up when this pandemic wore you down. And finally, let's not forget that rock that Moses sat on, because we all know there are people in our lives who support us without question and just immeasurably. We all know there are people who do things for others without asking for acclaim or gratitude, but simply because they are the rocks of our family, of our community, of our churches, our synagogues, our society, simply supporting each other, simply being there, immovable and solid, so that the rest of us can carry on. There is somebody like that in your life, and I hope you are grateful for them. I hope you are that for somebody else. Each character in this story is a point of reflection during a pandemic which is not over. In fact, it looks like we're getting the second wave here in Dutchess County, and we will need to turn to this text and others to help each other through what may be a very challenging winter. I am grateful that we have a strong interfaith community in Dutchess County that has been supportive of the hospital community. I am grateful for all of those who sent cards and letters and food over to the hospital. I'm grateful to work with people who care so much about caring for others. I wish to share that gratitude with you, ask you to express it to others, and be there for each other in the difficult days ahead. We will get through this with love, with determination, and with boundless generosity of spirit, which comes about when we open our hearts to each other. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Neil, for those beautiful words. Inspirational. How can we be Moses to one another? That resonates deeply. It actually triggered a thought for all the musicians and singers who may be tuning in. Consider how you could bring your love and your talent to perhaps a hospital or a healthcare facility or an elder care home. We've heard some amazing stories of musicians who bring the healing power of music outdoors so that those who are inside can hear, or to staff who are so belabored these days and could use maybe a lunchtime 15 or 20 minute inspirational bit of music in their lives. So get in touch and be Moses in song and in music, and reach out to those in our community who could probably use some extra bit of inspiration these days. Beautiful. Choir members throughout the Hudson Valley were wondering about the Interfaith Choir for a music festival in this most unusual year of 2020. Although we are not able to join together and sing new music in person, we are very fortunate to share a past video production. We are even more blessed to have the incomparable spirit of Barbara Davis amplified again as she conducts the first piece you will see here. Barbara, who passed away just last month, was a magnificent member of the Interfaith Music Festival Choir every single year since we launched in 1975. 44 years going, and here with us again in spirit in year 45. As you shall witness, Barbara Davis was a woman of great talent and vitality. You are missed beyond measure, Barbara. We channel your spirit and dedicate this song to all souls departed in 2020, reminding ourselves, as Barbara does here, Lord, you are good.
You are good.
We often had new works composed specifically and uniquely for the Interfaith Music Festival, and such is the case with Psalm 138. For a past production, Interfaith choir conductor Maurice Christopsons chose this text for composition, beginning with the line, which is evergreen and ever appropriate, "I will give thanks to you, O Lord." Peace and eternal rest be upon you, Barbara Davis. On this date, in 1963, we lost an inspirational peacemaker and a man of faith. He said, as we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest form of appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. We invite all of you who wish to express your faith to participate and get involved in the Dutchess County Interfaith Council. We have an ambitious slate of activities teed up for 2021, including the 46th annual Interfaith Music Festival, which we all hope to join in person next year. So to learn more, please visit DutchessCountyInterfaith.org. We conclude with Let There Be Peace on Earth, complete with lyrics so that you can join in and sing along, so no excuses. You can sing out loud like no one's watching. Thank you for uniting in interfaith spirit today. We are so grateful for Reverend Paul Lent, for Lorraine Nelson Wolf and Godfrey Nelson of Freedom Plains United Presbyterian Church, all the music builders, and super showrunner Carol Becker for making our time together possible. Ladies and gentlemen, happiest of Thanksgivings to you. May gratitude and good health be abundant in your lives, for you, your families, and your communities, and let there be peace on earth.